it would be interesting to explore what's happening on the US side, what kind of initiatives are happening on the Africa side, and then, hopefully there's some kind of learning exchange so that, the conversation should be as much as possible conversational. I'll love to start up conversations, but, please feel free to piggyback on what another panelist has talked about. So we are in unprecedented times. And so, with worries of an economic recession and technology disrupting what we know as, what we've known as being the commercial structure for most of, for a long time for the music industry, what kind of model should we be looking at in this quote unquote new normal? So I want to just start by formally introducing the panel of four that we have. I'll start with Sam. Sam is a global media, entertainment, and digital industry expert. He's worked in the US, he's worked across Africa. In 2009, he joined Viacom as MTV Network Business Development Manager here in Nigeria, where he worked for and created campaigns for LG, Coca-Cola, Cadbury, and a whole lot of other brands. He also acquired the master license of Trace TV West Africa, which is a 24/7 music platform, and has been able to actually expand that to include different other channels, which include Trace Naija, Trace Jama, and Trace Gospel. He's also instrumental in starting up STV, which runs on a platform here in Africa called Star Times. He is the managing director of Trace. And then we have Azim Rashad, who is a seasoned entertainment executive and strategist at global brands like Motown Universal, Atlantic Capital, RocNation, and at Columbia Records, where he has worked with cultural icons and industry leaders for over 2 decades. The list is incredible. Everyone that I love, from Mary J. Blige to Sam Smith, Neo, Migos, Diddy, Jay-Z and Beyonce, Erykah Badu, John Legend. And this is just to name a few. He's also worked with a lot of influencers. I think it's key to note that he's been fostering a global footprint, and we hope that footprint includes Africa, extending from music into literature, film, gaming, and charitable initiatives, as well as content creation. So would be so excited to hear from you. And then we have Piriye, who's the founder and CEO of Aristokrat Group, an African media entertainment firm headquartered here in Lagos, Nigeria. He also works as a media and entertainment consultant. His passion and dedication for finding lasting solutions to the problems facing the African media and entertainment industry has gained him a great reputation across the continent. He has also built a very strong track record in the area of artist and business development over the past decade. And last but not the least is Mr. Lester Pace, who is the new Senior Vice President of Radio Promotions at RocNation. And I don't want to get back. I mean, your background is so colorful, and some of the names that you've worked with, also major fans, Ghetto Boys, Hawk, Scarface, and many more. He's kind of pivoted and is working on his own promotions company, which he's actually been doing since 1998, called Setting the Pace Promotions. And this company was formed to help independent artists and labels receive the same type of attention that major artists and labels were receiving. Some of the names that he'd worked with at that point were Yo Gotti, Dem Franchise Boys, Young Jeezy, to name a few. Currently, he's also been working with names such as Drake, Monica, and was very instrumental to Chris Brown, his song Freaky Fridays. I thought that was pretty cool, reaching monumental heights in terms of streams and what have you. So I'd like to open up the floor, and I'll start with Lester. In terms of how artists and labels can look at different ways and strategic ways of monetizing their content now that we're facing the same things that you're facing in the States in terms of lockdowns, limited capacity for people to actually go out and engage in the traditional sense. What kind of ways are you exploring in terms of new ways that people can actually monetize their music content?
Well, I think it all started when the whole shift started back in 2008, 2009, when we got rid of the physical side of CDs. So it was already heading in that direction through streaming. And like I was speaking to Johnny and a few other people earlier, if this would have hit when we were still selling physical product, we would have been in trouble right now because no one can go into the stores and buy CDs. And at that point in time, we was mad. Everybody hated streaming at that time, but now it looks like streaming has come to be our savior in this business. So a couple of artists that I've worked with and over things that I'm doing at RocNation, I'm pushing artists. You got to look at now. Artists will have to be able to do live performances online now. Instead, that's one of the big monetization parts that I think that people are trying to see how they can capitalize on and get artists, do live performance, because people just want to see the performance and they want to hear that live entertainment. And I think it will help some artists and hurt some who can't perform, So that's going to be a key factor in that. And then you look at YouTube. I mean, even back in YouTube monetizing, back in the day, we only used YouTube for just to market and promote, just to get our video on there. I mean, it's little money that they're paying out, but it still adds up and everything. So I think those are the two main assets that I see in this pandemic that we're dealing right now that the artists can use to their benefits, those two sides that I think everything else, the streaming was already there, which has already played a big factor. But I think for us doing live performances online and the YouTube and putting more YouTube content up is what they can do.
Azim, the same question in terms of how artists can monetize their content.
Thank you for having me as well, and I appreciate it. I think that, one, let's hit all the high points. I think that I would look at artists today to really look at this as an opportunity to really take a look at their businesses and what they're doing. We've been in the streaming model here going on about roughly 10 years, and really I think as a sole source of income for the last 5 or 6 years. But there's so many artists who have actually not taken advantage of the platform. You'd be surprised on whether they're signed to major labels or independent artists who don't have consistency throughout their platforms. They're one thing on Twitter, there's something else on Instagram, there's something totally different on SoundCloud. So I think today, right now, is a great opportunity for them to sit down and really look at their business, how their business is structured, how their partnerships are structured, and also look for an opportunity to expand what they've been doing. So if they've only been living on SoundCloud, can they now beef up their YouTube following? If they've only been on YouTube and vice versa. I think the other piece of it is an opportunity for everyone to, as we used to say, the fan experience is what's so important. So what Lester talked about performances, but merch deals, opportunities to go out and get that ancillary income from maybe not that, you may not be able to get Coke and Pepsi, but you may be able to go get a small soda company or the local car dealership or opportunities for organizations like that to use your music and to get your face out there. I think that, hopefully we all hope that we're going to be back outside at some point, but I think that we should take the lessons we're learning today and keep them for a later date, because I think that, people are really going to get sidetracked and have a short attention span. And once they can go back outside and perform on a regular basis, they're going to forget about all these lessons they learned during this totally digital, platform we're having right now.
Just to kind of piggyback on what you've said, if I'm an artist and I don't have those kind of structures and I don't have that kind of expertise, where should I be looking for that? Am I leaning on my record label for that? Am I going and, just kind of hiring a total different management or social media management to work on my brand? How do I put those kind of structures around me to be able to monetize that space?
Well, I think both. I think one, the old school, and I'm sure there are companies that actually still put artists in a situation where there's more of a ownership versus a partnership situation. But I think a lot of labels now specifically are looking for partnership artists who can go out and do their own thing. I always say we're in the amplification business. No label's ever really been able to make a star. You come in as a star, and what labels do, they polish you up and they give you an opportunity to build on that platform. And I think nowadays what artists should be doing, those who are signed, they need to really take this moment and dig into their business, spend more time with their product managers, spend more time with the digital person, spend more time with the commerce people to really understand how they can be effective and releasing their product and making their product shine brighter. I think if you're an independent artist, to your point, my number one thing is always find an expert. And in 2020, there's so many experts who have independent organizations, independent companies, consulting companies. You can Google, you can look online, you can get referrals from people, whether they be in radio, TV, or film, that can actually help you find experts to help you do what you're doing. I tell people often, the first conversation with someone who's trying to help you was, well, what's your budget? You're talking to the wrong person. I think you should really speak to people who want to get to know your business and want to get to know your vision. And then they may say, you know what, I'm not the person for you, but maybe I can put you on with setting the pace because this is what they do.
Right. So I was going to come to you setting the pace very quickly, because that's kind of what you've done, right? To try to help artists to position themselves out and give them the support that a record label possibly could not. So what would setting the pace do for an artist, or a company like setting the pace do for an artist in this space to help them monetize?
Well, I don't deal with the company right now, but when I set up setting the pace at the time, I was working at Interscope, and I used to go into and Johnny used to probably be there too, and we used to go into this guy Bobby OJ's office in Memphis to radio. So we sit in radio to go talk about our records, and then we had this little young cat sitting in here with his record trying to get it played on the radio. So I saw at that time, like I told somebody, you wouldn't go to court without a lawyer. Right. So I said, we're going to be, they need to have somebody like a lawyer represent them to go sit down, because we have the relationship with this program director and speak on their terms and speak the lingo that we know how to speak, and give him the statistics and things of that nature to try to get their records played on the radio. So at that time, when I did it, I said, my whole concept to independent artists was say, be independent but major. You know what I'm saying? So that was a term that I wanted to express to them. You still be independent, but you got to think like a major label, work like a major label, do all the things they do, but on a smaller scale. So I would tell artists, if you didn't have enough promotional dollars to work Tennessee, Arkansas, and Mississippi, you work that like it's the United States. Okay, you do marketing and promotions in the areas that you're able to get to in 2 or 3 hour time frame. So that's what I would do. And now I tell artists now that the playing field has changed to me, and this is my own aspect of the game, is that artists have to look at the whole world. And what I'll do, I'll use an artist that I have right now. And it's funny, and Azim's on here. It's funny that we're having this conversation. Azim, I found this guy in Memphis by the name of Jay Howell. He was an R&B singer. We heard his voice. I brought Azim. We heard this guy. His voice was incredible. So, and this was like 3 or 4 years ago. So try to reach out to help him get a deal. He couldn't get a deal, but he had great music. So I told him and his producer to start their own company, and I would guide them and on more so on a management role and help them out. So now at this point, we put a song out, on radio last year. It did pretty decent, but it didn't do the streaming numbers, and that's one of the things that you got to find out and not lose that great feeling that everything works out. So it didn't work out. So what we started doing, it's funny that we're having this call. I came in, and you have to look at the aspect of what format is your music, and not look at your format just for the United States. Where is it around the world that people like your music? So when I looked at him being an R&B artist, I found out Africa loves R&B music. Japan loves R&B music. So I went online. A matter of fact, there's a company called Chartmetric, which is anybody listening, they definitely should look at Chartmetric, because Chartmetric can bring down, give you aspect for all of the things from Instagram to all of your social media platforms. You can see them all in one whole number. So you go and look at an artist that's similar to you on Chartmetric or somewhere, and try to base, okay, well, they have fans in this place in South Africa. Maybe I should target that. And so that's what we did with Jay Howell. So we end up, I think a few months ago, he was only moving like 1,000 streams in South Africa alone. So we started buying Instagram ads and promoting them in Johannesburg and all through South Africa. So here it is 2 months later. Now he's moving 25 to 30,000 streams a week in South Africa. And he did it. And then the next thing I do, I said, we need to go live in those places. So he wanted to perform at 8 o'clock at night, which is 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in South Africa. I said, that's cool. But what we do now, let's perform at 12 o'clock And then
Right.
maybe you need to come back, and we're talking now to go do a performance just for South Africa, just for that other part of the world, a certain time that they're going to tune in and do this. So I think artists have to look at the whole world and not look at one area now, because it's a worldwide business now.
Points well taken. Sam, you're on the broadcast end. How do you speak to how artists can monetize their content now and actually just moving forward? Because I think there'd be some kind of anticipation that things may not necessarily return to their normal, well, anytime in the near future. So this needs to be like a strategy at play that's more long term. What do you see, and what's your advice?
Sure. Well, thank you, and very interesting. I'd like to say a few things. One is that first of all, for those that don't know, Trace is traditionally a broadcaster, but we've expanded our remit solidly over the couple of years. We do have a full content, audio content distribution arm to the business, where we have thousands and thousands of up and coming African artists, as well as some bigger artists, where we help them monetize their stuff on the global platforms from YouTube and Spotify and Deezer and so on. But before I come back to the content bit, I just want to dovetail into both what Lester was saying, but specifically as Azim talked about, the monetizing again on YouTube and the big global platforms. And one of the key things that that speaks to both what they were saying is to keep in mind that for outside of the States, or at least outside of the West, that the streaming platforms, the streaming destinations are not all defined yet, and it's still a very dynamic market. And we find that while obviously a kid like Burna or WizKid or David, or for that matter, IOJ, right, are able to to hit significant numbers, whether it's with the diaspora, African diaspora audiences, or penetrating into the actual, to the wider audiences in the West, that back on the continent, we're not only monetizing on those platforms and to a lesser degree, but oftentimes direct to consumers through mobile, through platforms that may not be known or popular in the West, such as Boomplay. Boomplay is a Chinese streaming platform which is built based on the fact that there's 100 million of the company's phones in the marketplace. I just spoke to you and spoke on the earlier call about a new deal that we have with Music Time, which is MTN. MTN being Africa's largest telco company, and focused on a new streaming platform direct to their over 150 million subscribers across the continent. So while understanding of the Western models and the need to be there and to go with with professional, as both Lester and as he said, having people by your side who know the markets, who know how to talk to radio pluggers and program directors, etc., is critical. Also to be aware of and not take the African artists' eyes off of the platforms locally. I find that some of the biggest artists, while they may be making good money off their streams in the West, you find mid-level African artists who are cleaning up and doing very well on a regionalized basis or within a certain niche, whether it's spread across Africa. I love what was being said about recognizing that they love R&B in Africa and in Asia and so on, and they're it's one thing, and it's critical to shoot for the stars and be that superstar that's going to be all over Apple Music and so on and so forth. But on your way up, there are niches all over the place, both music lovers, platforms, and ways to reach that audience. Now, as a broadcaster, Trace is recognized as being kind of the I guess premium broadcaster for music on the continent, because we have I think 15 channels on the continent in 54 countries, right? So we're getting to all the audiences, and we're the one the one media platform that cross pollinates both the English speaking the French speaking and the other, including the
Good
Portuguese.
morning.
Hello. Hey, Petey, you made it. Um,
Yeah,
but you know, and it's critical that we as a local and international player, for us, it's important that we pay our music rights. We pay for the rights to air the videos, hoping that money ends up in artists' pockets. But again, at the fundamental place is the idea of education. They need to be aided with the right people around artists to help them get, to be guided, to make sure you're registered with collecting societies, that you're finding people who can help you monetize, not only on the global platforms, but on the local platforms as well. And find where your market is and go to them. Again, we have artists here who don't have a song or even their name even beginning to break in the States, but are doing millions of streams in in Uganda or in XX country. And American artists and well, not even American artists, international artists that are looking to be more in touch with the audience, just like you talked about, Lester. There's a place for you, and there's lovers of your music in this market and that market. So there's once you can bring the teams around you to fill all of those gaps. Even a mid-level artist on their way up can do very well.
Right, Sam. I don't want to interrupt you, but I mean, you brought it up. I had it written on my notes. I just found out a few weeks ago about Boomplay, and so I had to go to any artist out there. And what I found out, if your digital service provider might not be distributing your music to Boomplay, and I found out about Jukes as well. So it's a couple that I found out that was on the DSP sites, and I think Boomplay had 150 or so many million. The numbers it was incredible. So that's the point. I think that if the artists take from him, they have to understand. Whether if you're in the States, I don't know who's distributing their music over there, but if you're dealing with a distro kid or TuneCore or Symphonic or somebody, go into your back office and check and see where your music is being distributed to. If it's not in any of those places like that, like you said, you need to get on top of it, because the whole thing, my artist just last year, he was working a job, probably making $500 or $600 a month. Okay, so he moved to Atlanta. We put out his project in September. Now he's getting $1,500 to $2,000 a month. You know what I'm saying? So now he doesn't have to work a job. He can continue to work on his craft and focus on his music. But the main thing you got to diligently do your homework and go into your back office, whoever you're dealing with. And then, like you said, reach out and look at this as a whole world. This is not just the States. It's great to be hot in the United States. But even with my artists right now, we're focused on South Africa. I mean, the love that he gets from there and Nigeria, and just it's crazy. So you touched on a lot of great points, Sam.
Thank you.
We need to get his video on Trace, Sam.
Yeah, we do.
Bring it on.
Hey, don't worry. I'm gonna be calling Sam after this call. Sam gonna be my best friend. I might come get a house with next to you, Sam.
Come on down. You just seen the kids, huh?
Okay.
Piriye, how are you? Would love to hear
I'm
from
good.
you.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I had little technical issues, but I'm back now. So hope you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Great. So we were just kind of getting everyone's perspective with regards to how artists, and we can talk about artists, we can talk about record labels, in this time where, a lot of the traditional ways of monetizing content have kind of fallen off and everything's moving towards technology. Are they other things, especially, speaking even to the continent specifically, what other ways can artists / labels look to monetize their content?
Right now in this climate, the key thing for us prior to the coronavirus pandemic was live and doing a lot of brand supported activations or brand supported sponsorships and everything. That of course is taking a nosedive, especially on the live side. And again, technology is what we have right now. There are a lot of online activations, hopefully, that we're going to be seeing in the next quarter or next half of the year that we're hoping to pick up. and then just using the platform. I think this is a good time for us to be able to, for the artists and the labels to be able to engage with their core fan base. We're still trying to figure out how to best monetize in this situation. I don't think that anyone has a surefire way of monetizing. The bigger artists will attract brands online. The smaller guys still, unless you get on like the fan sites and create a paywall for give your fans access to you or your music, that might be the only shot you have right now, because I know streaming is down about 11% globally. So it's not. I still think we're still in the stage of figuring it out. Especially because our market again was heavily dependent on live.
Interesting. Azim, I think I'll come back to what you're talking about, but I wanted to just ask this question. For most African artists, it's interesting that Lester is saying that you guys are looking at, Africa as a market, to kind of monetize and, increase their footprint. A lot of African artists are looking to cross over, right? And see how, especially, Afrobeats is getting bigger, to see how they can be relevant, right? And use that as a different revenue to increase their, increase their income. Sorry. What do you think are the opportunities for African artists in America and with, American record labels?
Well, I'd like to really piggyback off of what Sam was saying. I think that, as the old saying, all politics are local. I think the same exists for music, and we have the same issues on this side of the water as well. Artists who are in Dallas or New York or LA will clamor that there's no support for them in that marketplace. And I think the challenge and the opportunities that everyone's looking at being Hot 100, number one on Billboard, MTV, BET Award. And there's so much money, there's so much opportunity on the bottom. There's a passion project I have called Behind the Mic. And the conversation starts with there's 5 jobs in front of the mic, but there's 500 jobs behind the mic. And that speaks specifically to people who want to be artists or entertainers or athletes, not understanding there's an entire economy behind the scenes and people who make great livings pushing out product, pushing out artists, supporting athletes, etc. On the music side, the entire ecosystem was built for anyone who touches the music to actually make money. And I think the biggest challenge and the opportunity, especially I think in the millennial and post-millennial age, that everyone wants to be an artist. And honestly, music is actually not a birthright for you to be a rapper or a singer or a musician, right? Technology has allowed everyone access to it, but the talent level has to be there. That's the first thing. And people need to really understand that there's a higher level of talent that you have to have in order to command $1 for your service. And so with that being in mind, I would push people to really look at their local economy. I know a couple artists who did not make it on the big stage, but wound up being in touring and cover bands and actually making more money than artists that actually got signed, right? So when you talk about a global economy where if you go region by region, territory by territory, and if you either yourself or through your team have the acumen to put your music out in every single one of those territories independently, you'd probably be better off than a lot of artists who are signed to major labels. The other piece of it, I think, is an understanding that, music is an emotional medium and it hits people different ways. Afro beats, because the continent is so huge, obviously that's where it is. It's the same way with mainstream hip hop in America, right? Sometimes the music doesn't cross the same way. So I think that one, I would own my backyard, to use an old saying, where I am, and then I would try to get as much ancillary opportunities in anywhere else in the world that I absolutely could. So one, the exposure levels is key, getting the music to those people. Two, finding a community of people who will support that product, no matter how big or small, and then expanding that community as far as you can.
Right on point. Right on point. Sam, I see you shaking your head. Do you think that African artists work enough to monetize their product right here, as opposed to looking and seeing how they can cross over?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to jump in out of order here, but I mean, I hear all day long, every day about artists, you know, and it's understandable. It's glamorous, right? I mean, you see Drake or Jay or whoever, and of course, and that's all right, and that's fine and well. But plot your way to that, and you know, I often say to African artists, I'm like, man, it's tricky enough to become a superstar once. Now you want to do that a second time. That's, you know, it's not easy, right? And again, I'm not hating on trying to become international or global, but you know, own your own backyard. And Azim, you just used that phrase, and you know, it's funny enough. Somebody made me remember how seasoned guys like Azim, Lester, and I are in this industry. PD, I'm not putting you down. You're in there too. They said, look. If anybody tells you about worry about your local market, it's a digital world. So I now use the term your niche, and you said that as well. Find your niche and get in there, because it may be some kids in Japan who love you. It may be some, you know, a bunch of guys in Haiti, whatever it is. So find that niche. But anyway, I just want African artists to also be conscious of, you know, take advantage of what's right in front of you as well.
Pri, would love for you to chime in, because I think you've had or you have artists that has actually crossed over and has been successful. How was that journey? How was that path? And would you say that it's obviously, I'm sure that particular artist, it's definitely been a very major rewarding experience in terms of the financial aspect of it, but one could say that that's like a 1 in a million chance. But how was that journey for you guys?
I think we started with owning our own background. I'm from a Port Harcourt in Nigeria, and my first year I made sure I stayed local because I had like family support and I had the city behind me. It was a small city, small radio. We had like 6 radio stations, so it's a lot easier to conquer a small city with 6 radio stations than coming to Lagos. And then they gave us by the time we got to Lagos, we had a story to tell. We're the biggest guys out in Port Harcourt, and we did the Lagos thing. And then we've built step by step from one phase to the other. And that's always been our strategy with every artist that we take, where we build from ground up, from where you're from, if you're from Benin, if you're from Port Harcourt, if you're from Ibadan or wherever it is, get your local audience, build, and just build gradually. Now, the issue where you see a lot of artists try to cross over is because when you take out the live, we're not making enough money off of streaming music in our territory right now. All the money from streaming actually comes from the diaspora. That's why you see a lot of African artists shoot or aim for the diaspora, not because there is a local market that is primarily shows and endorsements, but where it comes from making money off of music, all that money is coming 90% from the diaspora. So that's why you see a lot of African artists want to be out there. They want their streaming numbers to be up. And unfortunately, apps like Boomplay and the local players are doing well. They're amassing a lot of subscribers and everything, but payment issues are still there. So you're not getting enough returns on the streams off of Boomplay and stuff like that. So the local platforms aren't really performing too well. So we're now left with looking at the global platforms like Apple Music and Spotify for earnings, and that's why you see a lot of focus on crossing over. But I've always been a believer in like owning your market, but when the market is still not developed to the point where there's enough returns in the market, then you start seeing people looking elsewhere.
Well, I think to that point, it's about being ambidextrous as well. Again, you kind of have to do 2 things at one time. So you have to, as you did, right there in Nigeria, you have to own where you are. But as you start to develop in other territories, I think the problem is people try to bite off the whole world versus going market by market. So if you own Nigeria, let's go to South Africa, or let's go to Sub-Sahara. Like, figure out other places to go. To Lester's point about, because we came up together in the same region. I tell people all the time, if you can drive 3 to 6 hours, anywhere you can get to 3 to 6 hours, that's your next place. So if you think about it from, whether it be air traffic or by train, whatever, anywhere you can get to within a day's journey, that you can now go and promote and market the same way you do locally, that's your next opportunity. And as you start to piece together those markets, it's like building, you're building your resume piece by piece by piece. And I think that once, again, to the point of being global and everybody, technology is amazing. Once a few people get on, then you can figure out how to expand it globally. But I think the problem is people want to go all the way across before they take those baby steps. And I think you should build it step by step.
Right. And just to speak on that, Azim, I'll use an artist like, say, for instance, Yo Gotti. I remember back, I first started dealing with Yo Gotti back in 2002. So every artist's path is not going to be the same. I think we look for instant success. If this doesn't happen in a year or two, then okay, 3 years, then I'm doing it. Yo Gotti started back then, and I use him as, like I say, as that example. He would put his marketing dollars, and we would work those little small territories. He was in Memphis. He would go work Arkansas, Alabama, Missouri, and those places. And you have to realize his career really didn't super blow up on a national level. You talk about 2010, 2011. So it was 8 to 9, 10 years, but all during that time, he was still monetizing himself and able to take care of his family and make a good life. So I think everybody want to be a superstar, but you don't have to be a superstar. You can be a great artist in a certain area, not be on a platform as everybody else, and you never know how long how long it would take to get to that level or wherever you want to be comfortable in this business. Everybody's not going to be a Drake, a Beyonce, or somebody, but you can make a good enough money in this business to take care of your family.
I mean, if you look at any area, right, whether it be sports, music, entertainment, even business, there's only a small percentage of people that are at the top. Whether it be American football, whether it be traditional football, whether it be basketball, baseball, whether it be music, there's only going to be a certain amount of key players, right? Everybody can't be the starting quarterback or the lead halfback. There's only going to be a certain amount of people that are at the very top, but it takes an entire team and it takes an entire network of people to make the whole industry move forward. So I think that we're not shooting people down and not telling people don't shoot for the stars, as Sam says, but I think that you have to find a middle ground. And if you are lucky enough and have the opportunity to blow up globally, absolutely, you should be, if you've done your work along the way, you'll be ready for that success. But B, you take that opportunity, and when the star fades, so to speak, you'll be able to come back down and continue your business.
Talking about, I'm not sure if it was Azim or Lester that kind of mentioned that, I think it was Lester, that every path for every musician isn't necessarily the same. So you have musicians that are looking at maybe setting up their career independently, and those that are looking to kind of get tied up with a record label. What should inform, and I'll give this to Piriye, what should inform an artist's decision whether they're looking to start up by themselves? I think with like social media, there's no reason why anyone should give themselves a head start. But what are the advantages and disadvantages of both sides? Can you hear me? Hello?
What was the question for?
Oh, sorry, it was for Piriye.
Well, I think for me, I always say you have to know as an artist what you need or what you're looking for, what your long-term goals are. I don't believe everyone is built for a major label system. Some people are better off independent, but that's based on what you as an artist are trying to achieve. At a particular point, if you've built your career to a point where you feel like you need the assistance of the network or the financing of a major label, at that point you make the call to go into that system. But I always promote like trying to do it yourself for as long as possible. As long as I always promote, be independent, build as much as you can build, and make the necessary partnerships and alliances whenever you need to, and then at the right moment partner with a label, go into a label system. If not, go the journey alone. As everyone has pointed out here, that you don't have to be a superstar. You can build a great career from being a B-list, C-list, whatever list you feel you're from. You can always make a great living from that. Now, I know in the local market here, it's a bit challenging because it almost seems like there's only money for the top 1%, and then the remaining 99% are just left with nothing. Unfortunately, we don't have the infrastructure where you could easily get up and go from city to city or country, or like, for instance, now Ghana is a big market for the guys out in Lagos or Nigeria. It costs a lot of money, and it's a lot of hassle to be able to move from Lagos to Ghana or Lagos to Port Harcourt or Lagos to Abuja. So the infrastructure deficit that we have from being a developing country does make it a little bit more challenging for the guys at the bottom to be able to earn. And then, of course, again, the streaming platforms and everything. But I still say there's a way to map out a career for yourself and build gradually. It's not always easy, and it's not everyone's not going to make it, but just do what makes you comfortable. Find your lane and find your spot.
Sam, especially I think in most African countries where data is still an issue, right? It's not so cut and dry. Like we're hoping to get to where the U.S. is, right, in terms of having everyone having the ability to be able to stream, and so obviously that then makes it easier for an artist to monetize their content. What then is the importance of still radio, right? How relevant is radio and television right now? And are there ways from your position that you think that artists can actually be leveraging those mediums in a greater way to be able to make more money?
No, absolutely. Beyond, so obviously the streaming is the core, right? That's your music, that's where you make the money. But first of all, I think radio and TV, they're slightly different. So first of all, TV on the continent, yes, we're having cord cutting, but not at the same rate that it's happening in the West. It will continue to happen. And even as it further declines, well, actually, right now during the pandemic and the stay at home, our ratings and viewership is actually up quite significantly. But following this, we still expect it to continue to decline. But there's also an add-on effect where there's a certain amount of credibility from being on TV, which kind of stamps you more as a proven artist, so to speak. So that effect will continue to linger for quite a while. And radio, it's going to be significant for at least the next 10, 15 years, just, with, the markets as they are. 90% of people are or maybe not 90, the actual numbers are, I can give the actual access to TVs, or at least pay TV, where they're going to see consistently one artist and this or that. So radio is the medium that still hits the masses in a major way. So they're both playing a major part. What I would say is that specifically more so for TV, but also for radio, that adaptability and innovation is a critical element. Artists here on the continent, and it plays a little bit to the U.S. and to the international markets as well. Their physical presence is, like PD was saying, people are making their money out of appearances and shows and the like. And how do you mimic that? How do you give that access to every weekend for birthdays and parties in Lagos? How do you start to do that across the continent? Can you shoot pieces of content, whether it's generically, and girl are getting married this weekend, hey, I love you. You don't even have to say their names, and they buy that video to put into their Zoom call for $100, right? And you could suddenly be selling that to 1,000 events a weekend, right? Same with doing additional content, which can drive more interest to your music content. And radios and TVs across the continent are constantly looking for unique and available content. So it's it's understandable, again, to default, and what we've all talked about. I think Azim, you rounded off by saying it perfectly. and Lester, we're not trying and PD, we're not trying to say don't shoot for the stars. Shoot for the stars,
Right.
but plan your route along the way. And if you end up at 80% or 60%, there's still a real market for you and a real living to be made in the music industry. So likewise, if you're an artist on the continent or you're an artist in the West trying to be, further out with your audiences, shoot some exclusive content. You don't always have to jump to YouTube, especially when it comes to the continent. There's TV channels, Trace, MTV, Sound City, and a whole host of others on more localized basis who would love to have some exclusive content you talking about what your studio process or whatever it is, and they will be happy for you to put your streaming handle there or your Spotify link. Like Piriye said, the bulk of the streams are actually coming from outside, from the diaspora markets. But your local link for your ringback tones, your local link for boom play, whatever it is, and so you can by being a little bit more. Somebody said it on the earlier call, Chi-Chi, and they said, if you're operating your business like you were before COVID happened, good luck. It's going to run out at some point. And if you're not thinking and adapting and being like, what the hell else can I do? And you better be racking your brain and coming up with every other thing you could possibly do. Your local telco, if you're a mid-range artist, your local telco is always looking for content, always looking for you to engage. Sure, MTN or whoever it is, they may take a lion's share of the monies, etc. But they're also an incredible platform. And if you're out there, MTN would be happy for mid-level artists, not even the biggest artists, to come in and do live tweets on a weekend with them on a Friday and talk to their to the audience and leak out an exclusive track which they can put on Music Time, and then if they can find something that sticks, it's yours. You own it. You can still blow it out to Boomplay and then Spotify and then Deezer and Tidal afterwards. So be innovative. Keep that long-term focus. Keep that big game focus, but innovate on what you're doing, and your audiences want to hear you. The platforms want to listen to you and share what you're doing. So get active.
And to piggyback on what Sam just said, radio to me, if it's an important, you're not a star till you get on one of these platforms. You know what I'm saying? You may be good and you might stream and do a lot of things, but everybody still wants to be on TV. Everybody still want to be at the awards and that nature. So I tell people in this music industry now, I look at artists, I tell them radio is like the paint job on a car. Okay? Before that car gets the paint job, you have to go test drive it, get it, and run it through all the things to make sure it's ready to go be sold for that many dollars. But before you put it on that showroom floor, you got to put that nice paint job, tires, and everything, and that's what radio and TV plays that important part for any artist to me.
Can you, Lester? Obviously, right now your focus at RocNation is radio promotions, working as the senior vice president there. How do you use that vehicle on a day-to-day basis with your artists to create different?
What you talking about with the artists on RocNation?
Yeah.
Yeah, an artist on RocNation. Well, it's basically it's you bring in so many people with expertise in a group. Like I bring my radio and marketing experience, and then we have the product managers and everybody. So now you got that whole group of people who bring in all their different expertise, and we put it all together to say, okay, this business plan to go here. This person right here going to work the social media. What we're going to do at radio. So we have our conference calls, and we bring out all those things together. That's what you got to almost have to create a team as an independent on that same scale. But that's what we do for our artists at RocNation. We give them a full, because certain records don't go on the radio. We come with a plan, like just to be honest, like we got an artist, matter of fact, a Jaden Smith's project that's coming out, so we may not even go to radio because he doesn't fit any of the platforms we want to go to radio. So how do we market him? So we have to go in, and whether it be through the video content that we're going to present, all the different things on social media, from Triller and all these other platforms that are open and work those angles. So having all those people in a room with the different expertise, what brings that whole package together.
Azim, I think, a lot of times when artists think about music, they think about, monetizing from a sense of like commercials, selling their songs. But there are other ways that music can be used, whether it's in film, whether it's in commercials, like the less obvious ways of monetizing your content as an artist. Can you speak to any creative ways that don't necessarily have to be, just putting out a hit song, that artists can start to, shape their brand to offer different services? And then while you're on that topic, even though this is not necessarily that panel, but I think you bring up a very important point, which you said earlier, that the music industry isn't just about being the artist, right? There are different things that you can do to be part of the industry and make a living off of that. I think sometimes because when people think of music, they just see the artist, right? And so they're thinking that, okay, so this is what this means. So if you can speak about, once again, the various ways that musicians can capitalize on their talent, and then the different opportunities that people can actually get into in terms of the business executive side of the industry.
Well, I mean, listen, they always say it always starts with a song. So I think that as far as, the actual music piece of it, having a commercially viable piece of music, and again, it doesn't have to be a 10 times platinum seller, but something that melodic that people want to hear and repeat over and over again. There's jingles, there's commercials that you talked about, television and film syncs, even songwriting. Those are all opportunities for you. Necessarily, if you as the artist or the producer of the music can't be the front forward facing individual doing it, that you can get your voice being heard. But again, it goes back to the connectivity of it being emotional to someone liking it enough to do it. Like, I always say about the music business today, it just takes you in a room of 100 people to say that you're dope and you got it. And that's it. And you want to expand that exponentially until you get to a point of full market penetration. It's not easy, obviously, but again, you have to start somewhere. I think as far as behind the mic and jobs behind the scenes opportunities in all aspects of entertainment, it allows people who have a love for whatever it is. If you love sports but you're not an athlete, you can be a trainer, you can be a coach, you can be a statistician, you can be a commentator, right? Those are jobs and opportunities that keep you around the sports environment without you actually being on the field. For music specifically, since that's what we're talking about, there's a thousand jobs you can do. Everything from being a studio technician. If you're good with computers, the digital space is where we currently live. So everything from being an aggregator at a distribution company to being a social media specialist. I have a 14-year-old daughter. She's doing a personal internship for me now. She's going to be my social media coordinator for the summer.
Wow.
Songwriting, as we talked about, publishing, engineering. Do you like to drive tour buses? Guess what? You can make $1 million driving tour buses across the country, or even in other parts of the world. Pilots, people who have private planes. Like there's literally nothing you can't do if you have a love for music, but aren't necessarily an artist or aren't artist intensive, that you can do it. Lester and myself, we made a career doing, and Johnny did it as well, being promotion people. Music, being the voice of the artist, being the frontward facing piece of the record label. I know here in the United States, I guess over in Europe and in Africa, they call them pluggers. The promotion person is probably the only person you will see on a consistent basis. And the way that person actually got their opportunities, they were probably loquacious, a lot of times very outgoing, had a personality, but they knew everybody. They knew where the best hair salon was, where the best barbecue joint is. They had a way of talking themselves into things, and that became an opportunity because it's a sales job, right? You're trying to convince someone to do something that they either don't have the time, bandwidth, or even the thought process of doing it. So there's so many things you can do behind the scenes, but I think just to be around the product and to be around the music, if that's your goal, and you're not an artist, you're not a singer, you're not a musician, there's things you can do that actually can be very fulfilling. And I'm proud to be one of those people behind the scenes.
Piriye, can you speak to...
Just to piggyback off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are both.
Just
all
to
of us
piggyback
are.
off of that. So for me in 2016, I started off as a label, and just because the label business wasn't really working out because of streaming, what wasn't there in the early 2000s, early 2000s or late 2000s, we decided to make a pivot and turn ourselves into a service company where we started making content for brands. We made content for Coca-Cola, the West African business unit, for Coke Studio. We made some content for Uber. We went into experiential marketing, doing live shows, just because the source of revenue, where it was record sales, wasn't existent back then. We had to think outside the box and say, you know what, we have these skills of creating music or creating content or putting up these campaigns. Why not we take those skills and pitch them to brands that are looking for music related content or music related campaigns? And we did that for about, we've been doing that, and we're still doing that actually, alongside running the label business, because in the market that we are in, as I said, the traditional record sales are not existent still. They're growing. There's improvement in that, but you have to think outside the box. You have to be innovative, and that's a decision that we had to make to stay in business, basically. So I would say the same thing to an artist, where you have some great design or songwriting skills or whatever skills that you've been able to acquire from being an artist or being around the music. You should be able to take that and flip it and turn that into a service. I think our industry right now is probably, you make more money off of being in the service space, being a plugger, being a video director, being a stylist. You're probably making more money than artists in this space. So I always push, like, you have to have a service mentality as an artist while you're coming up. So that's a big thing for me.
Sam, do you have anything to interject on this? Can you hear me?
I think Lester's has that.
Because then, you could be on the label side, but then obviously there's space on the media side to be involved in the.
No, absolutely, and I think what oftentimes when we're speaking on these panels, we're using all these big words. It's stuff people understand. It's convergence. It's all converging, right? So artists are. I mean, we have great examples here on the ground of artists who started off kind of as comedians, and they're making more content, and then turned into artists, and now they're brand ambassadors, but they're also movie stars, and so it's all one space, and nobody loves anything more than a great celebrity, right? Great celebrity, and again, whether that celebrity is on the scale of a global superstar or you're a local champion, you have so many ways in which to take your notoriety, and the same applies for a label that maybe is not, hasn't got that celebrity, but knows the act of working with celebrities and getting excited, getting excitement. At the end of the day, so it's what brands and not even to forget brands. That's what the audience wants. They want to be excited and have some fun, and how can we help them get to that, either through a celebrity or in partnering with a brand or helping brands connect with them. It's all in one space. And so, digital is driving that additional convergence. COVID and Corona is even furthermore accelerating it. And hence, my thing of, if you're doing stuff the same way you were doing even 6 months ago, get active and get thinking. If somebody had asked me, and maybe most of us on this call 6 months ago, if we could run our business, 90% at home, I'd have wanted to say yes and thought we were cool to be, cool enough and smart enough and hardworking enough to work remotely. But now, hell yeah, I'm considering closing the office, So
that's a lot of people are doing.
And so we get so used to the ways we're doing it. And I don't mean to, but definitely think, innovate, look, talk to people. If you ask the right questions, people will give you the answer, So for those that are listening to this, Ruche, can you do that a little later? Sorry, my son's playing football. For those that that are listening and watching into this panel, think actively. There's no gatekeeper. There's nobody who's trying to keep you out of this industry. We want new blood. We want fresh ideas. We want fresh people coming in. And some of you have the answer out there. And whether you're an artist or you're a guy behind the scenes, as we all proudly were able to raise our fists and say that I've been around this music industry. I'm not the best artist. I do still spark my voice here and there. But come on in and think and bring new ideas, and don't have to do it the way it's been done.
Thank you. We're almost at the end, and what I want everyone to maybe speak to is we're having this call. I know Azim had to leave, but we're having this call with our American counterparts and us on the continent side. Are there any opportunities moving forward as we move into a global market space for different kind of collaborations with independents working with independents over there, or labels working with labels over here, to just really push the market, so that what we're asking artists to do, which is expand their footprint, as executives on both sides of the pond, what are different things that we can do to make sure that we're working together and maximizing the market?
I think things of this nature, because right now I just made a friend out of Sam to get on this call and everything. So, we didn't have access to know who to call or what to do. So I think in some type of way, we may need to come up with some type of directory, of who does what in these different continents, that we all can start collaborating and use our expertise to help each other. And then bring artists together, because there may be an artist over in the States trying to figure out how he can get over to Africa, and then they can get together and do a song together. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And put more music out there and share on their platforms. And now they can also create a totally different sound to bring. It's like, I remember when I worked at Interscope back in the day, when Eminem said when he went hooked up with Dr. Dre, that he brought Dr. Dre his fans, and Dre brought him his fans. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think artists need to get together, and not especially independent artists. Don't worry about an artist has a good following. This guy got 20 or 30,000 followers on Instagram. You got 20, 30. You guys may come and do a live show together. Not like they're doing the verses. Now you two there, and now your audience had a chance to hear this artist, and you can start building from there. That's some of the things I would like to see happen that I think could work on both sides.
Awesome. Sam?
I can't really add much more to that. I think that's just right on the money. It's absolutely right on the money. There's, at the end of the day, the music brings it around, but the music is ultimately that track that we can bounce to when you're, when we're out of the club or whatever it is. But everything around that is. I think that far too much. Especially, and I keep talking to African audiences as I'm here, but we're looking to the West as the solution. Trust me, there's artists looking here, there's labels wanting to be involved, there's content creators, there's influencers. Let's make it an exchange, let's make it mutual.
Awesome. Last but not the least, Piriye, your take on how we can collaborate more to make it a bigger pie for both people or both sides.
Same thing as he said. Same thing. Yeah, same thing as Lester and Sam have said. Platforms like this, getting the artists connected to each other, getting us connecting to each other, building that bridge. That's what this is about, building the bridge. So actually establishing that bridge for people to be able to cross. On our part, we're always looking for partners in different territories. We recently did a JV with Universal Music France, which of course puts us in the European and the UK market, gives us more presence in that market with our releases coming forward. So it's doing the right business partnerships, doing the right networking and connecting with everyone that we need to connect with, and then also making sure the artists are doing the same on their level. And I think that's what's going to lead to that collaboration growing and building a bigger ecosystem.
Thank you. I think that's key, and that's really what this is about, is figuring out how we can work together and continuously exchange ideas. I think it's one thing to say that we are in a global market, but you kind of have to know who's actually across the globe. And so the takeaway from this one, and for each one of these panels that we're having, we're identifying an actionable step that we want to be a part of to move the conversation forward, so that it's just not a conversation. And having that directory, Lester, I think is key, so that, along with having these kind of panels that bring not just musicians. I mean, we're going to be talking to people in television and film, African Americans on, there and Africans here, is to look to build that directory and start to facilitate more business relationships that can forge ahead and actually be more money for everyone. I think that that's really what we're trying to get out of here. I will send it over to Johnny to just kind of close out this session for us. You're on mute, Johnny.
I just unmuted myself. Listen, I think this session, the biggest thing I heard was Sam and Lester are new friends. So that's absolutely awesome. The other thing, one of the benefits of being a member of NABFEM is our directory, that you can go online to our website, click that directory, and see who is where. But even more importantly, what has come out of this call, Chi-Chi, putting it back on you, that it may be even more important for us to start working on an international directory, because you see what this has brought together. And so we did the seminar with the mindset of exchanging information and exchanging ideas between us here in America with you guys there in the continent. But look what happened. Like, Lester can't wait for us to end this call, so Lester wants us to say, okay, we love everybody, gotta go, because I need to get on the phone with Sam. They're going to have their own Zoom or what have you, and that is absolutely amazing. I think that everybody that is listening to this call, reach out to Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi is our face, our eyes, our voice, our ears, our everything there in Lagos. I don't know if I'm saying it correct. Lagos in Nigeria. How about that? I said that right, I think. Reach out to Chi-Chi, because she is our connection point. She has an amazing company, Splint. You might want to look into that too. They are doing some amazing things there. So the fact that we have collaborated to present these sessions, we can do it globally. We don't have to wait on somebody else to tell us what to do. You guys have been saying it all morning. We don't need anybody to tell us anything. The biggest thing that we need to do is be one. We need to be of each other. We need to understand the power that we have when we come together. The music, so it may be small in one place, but just imagine how large or how it could embellish itself if we work together. Everybody, like you said, is not going to be a star, but I don't know, you can be a star in your own backyard, it depends on define star. So this is amazing.
Being able to pay your bills.
Absolutely. So we did earlier, we talked about structure, which was amazing. We learned some really great tips. And as I said before, you will be able to go to the NABFEM Africa Facebook page and catch that first seminar. We'll be finalizing this one. You'll be able to go back. Maybe you missed something and see this particular seminar on the NABFEM Africa Facebook page. Coming up tomorrow, we got Getting a Good Deal. I believe it's artist representation, if I am correct. Getting a Good Deal. And we talked a little bit earlier about radio. Well, we're going to have two very strong professionals. We got, and I hate butchering names. Kashon, you're going to, the GM.
Deji Awokoya.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. That's tomorrow.